Hello and welcome to the second edition of H.A.O.C.T.S.G and other cultivation tools. We're here with our usual bunch. We've got our resident cultivation expert here, Rodri Davis.
Hello.
A new member to our team, you've got Geraint Jones.
Thank you.
Tony Jenkins here, George Daniels, Keith Watson at the back, and Mark Williams.
And of course Barry.
And of course Barry.
Letting us film.
Yeah, letting us film in this room once more. Yeah, thanks a lot. Okay, before we move on to Pitchforks today, we'll like to talk about our last podcast on H.A.O.C.T.S.G. We have a few emails, and we'll pass over to Barry, who's got a few emails for us to answer in response to last week.
And as Jack said there, we've been literally inundated by an email from a Claude Shagswell of North Westchester.
What does Claude want to know?
His question for the panel is, what is the best way to wash a dirty hose?
Well, that's one of many answers.
That's true.
Rod, what do you think?
Well, it really depends what the hoe is made of, and on your budget. I mean, personally, I use the same beeswax that they use on Rolls Royces.
Expensive stuff.
Expensive stuff.
Not
cheap. It's from the jungles of Borneo.
Well,
but I don't recommend that.
Your hoe,
yeah, you do need to look after your hoe.
And we've just had an email through in the last 10 minutes from a Glenda Moist from Cumbria asking what is the best handle to have on your hoe? Is it better to have just a shaft, or better to, the hose with the handles at the end? What's your opinion?
Personally, I don't go for a handle. I think if you're arthritic, or
can't be good, can it?
Possibly, if you've only got one arm.
Right, we'll now move on to the subject of today's podcast. That would be the humble pitchfork. We'll start off as we always do with the definition. A pitchfork, I have the definition here, is an agricultural tool with a long handle and long, thin, widely separated pointed tines, also called prongs, used to lift and pitch loose materials such as hay, leaves, grapes, dung and other agricultural materials. Rodri Davis,
yes,
give me your opinion on the pitchfork.
The humble pitchfork, where do I start? I mean, as we've said, the pitchfork is useful for transporting material, picking material up and then putting it down.
Yeah, this is good for that, especially hay.
Good material.
Yes,
it is.
Breaking the earth up to make it, more susceptible to the hoe.
Yes,
which
we've already gone into.
Goes hand in hand with a pitchfork.
Yeah,
like Cain and Abel.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those culture-defining.
Hello, YouTube and the YouTube community. I'm afraid that I'm making this video to deliver some bad news. Due to the ghastly credit crunch, filming had to be cut short that day, and due to the lack of funding, the H.A.O.C.T.S.G and other Cultivation Tools Society group, or H.A.O.C.T.S.G, are disbanded until further notice. But don't fret, the usual team will be back to analyse the pitchfork and the hoe once again in more detail, as soon as possible. In the meantime, I give you a special Easter edition audio podcast on the plough. Jack Reese was joined by our enigmatic resident plough expert, Randy Powell. So, happy Easter.
Hello and welcome to the third podcast from the H.A.O.C.T.S.G and other Cultivation Society group. Today we're going to be moving on to the plough. I'm here with our resident plough expert, Randy Power from Cumbria. Hello, Randy.
Hi, how's it going?
It's going well. So where should we start with
Well, first of all I want to say thanks for inviting me on this show. I've been a really big fan. I've noticed it. I've been watching you on YouTube and I think that you're top. So thanks for having me on.
That's no problem.
What would you like to pick my brains on?
Well, we'll start. Well, there's so many different types of plough. Do you have a special plough you like to talk about first?
Well, there's so many ploughs to choose from. We're going from the ancient ploughs all the way through to the modern ploughs. But I think the most important thing is a good deep ditch. We always make sure that we turn those ditches right over, because there's always a lot of rotten and a lot of rotten stuff, so a lot of rotten crap that needs turning over if we were going to get the goodness out.
Yeah.
So I just want to give you a little idea really on the history of hoeing.
Yeah.
So first of all, generally it's used in the farming trade, and I believe you've done a little bit of study before, haven't you?
We did a podcast on hose. Yeah, we've.
It looked good. I noticed you've been having plenty of hits on your YouTube, and I've always been a fan of calling them digging sticks rather than a hose. Up in Cumbria, up in the mountains, we still call them a digging stick, and we always make sure that we have a substantial head on it to make sure that we do enough the most damage as possible whilst we're ploughing.
Yeah.
So
we're going to move on now to the more advanced version of the hoe, of the plough, the humble plough.
Yeah, that's it. So there's all sorts. I think one of my favourite ploughs is the scratch plough.
Scratch plough's a good plough.
Definitely. It really is. It's a sort of rudimentary plough, but activity itself is facilitated by the tugging of an oxen, a big girt one. So we make sure it's a really solid beast.
Need a solid.
And we make sure that it's got a good bit of strength in its shoulders to give it a good tug. Because I tell you what, the scratch plough, as the name really sort of gives you an idea, it don't half scratch. It's got a hell of a bit of a hoe on the end.
It does.
In terms of
it really tears up the ground, doesn't it?
It tears the words. It makes new trams. Big time. It splits it in bits.
Yeah.
So it's really good. It's an old plough. Actually, it originated in Mesopotamia. And it was actually patented by a man called Barry, which actually turns out to be an Iranian or ancient name for turn maker. So that's where the name Barry actually started as well. And he was very linked with oxen because he said that he had the solidness and the girth of an ox. So that was really good, interesting. Now then we move on to crooked metal plough, which is really good. Yeah.
More expensive, yeah. So in times of war, it was melted down or forged to make weapons.
It was
presumably where the origin of the term "beat your swords to ploughshares" came from.
Exactly, it certainly did. Came just from that. I'm really impressed with your knowledge, Squire. Good on you. But I think nowadays, if I'm talking about the place that ploughs have in society now, well, I think it's definitely closely linked to hoes. Wherever you find a good hoe, there deserves to be a good ploughing. There's always a plough to fit the bill. There's always going to be one close by. Yeah. And that's definitely one of my favourite ploughs though is either the riding plough or the mole plough.
The mole plough.
The mole plough. Absolute cracker. It's a subsoiler. So it allows under drainage to be installed within the trenches. So we make sure that gash or that trench is really nice and deep, and we make sure that we get it irrigated because we need to make sure that water gets through and moistens so the seeds can grow.
Yeah, it's a very deep plough, the mole plough, and with a torpedo-shaped or wedged-shaped tip.
That's right. Yeah. It is. It's a real ballistic bosher.
It is. Bosher is a good word.
Of the ploughs, I'd say that it really it was a no apologies plough. It went in there, and it went in there, and it meant trouble. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A blunt boshing out the way. Do you know what I mean? And really did carve out a good trench.
Yeah.
If the fields could talk, they would really groan with pleasure when we drag a steam plough or a modern plough or a plough of that nature.
Move on
down
to the modern ploughs now. We've got the steam plough, which is now
industrial era really came in. It was built 1929, circa 1929, and it really was. It embraced the steam age, which as we know took the nation. Gripped the nation, in the industrial era. But in terms of where we are today, we've got this huge scale agriculture going on, and ploughing is as vital as ever. Our soils are becoming impoverished. We're having to make sure that we really fertilise them well. So we've got to make sure that we get deep into those trenches and we turn it over and get the goodness out of the ground once again. Excellent.
Well, thank you very much, Randy Power, for your input there and enlightening us on the humble plough.
My pleasure.
Next week we'll be moving on to the cattle prod, so stay tuned. We'll bring it to you as soon as we can.